guitar players. My name's Jack Jennings and we're going to look at playing Raag Yaman on the single G string, which is more akin to how you would play it on the sitar. Okay, and we're going to use a diagram so we can actually see how this works, and we can differentiate between the notes in the ascending order and the descending order. And we'll also be looking at some different motions that you can start to practice moving up and down that sequence to develop your phrasing and ornamentations in this style. Now, first of all, we're going to look at a diagram which uses the interval numbers, and then we're going to relate that to Sargam, and then we'll actually carry on with Sargam because that's the system that you should really use if you want to be thinking in the Indian classical way. And it's going to help you to create more of a vocal system around what you're playing, which is just the most important thing that you can really get from Indian classical music. And we're in the key of D, and your D string, that's your best friend right now. That's giving you a drone. So you can either tune in drop D tuning, so you tune your low E string to that pitch, or you can do what I've done, which is to put Shakir strings on. So I've got two high strings here replacing my low strings. So these are very thin gauge 8 strings, and they're both tuned to D. So this gives me the Shakir effect that you'd normally have on the sitar, and it really helps to get the kind of texture that we need for this type of music. But you can just do it in drop D tuning. That's what I did for many years. So you can use your drop D tuning or just your open D string as a drone. And now let's play this first note. Okay, so that's the fret 6 on the G string. That's the 7th degree of a scale, because in Raag Yaman you don't begin and go up from the root there on fret 7. You could begin the recital by playing that root note, which is Sa, but you have to begin your phrases around this part of the scale. You begin them with Ni, which is the 6th fret, because it's then that you can go up. So basically the ascending order skips over the root. Okay, so let me explain what's going on with the diagram. The black notes, the solid notes there, the 7, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 7, they are the notes that you can play in the ascending, and you can also play them in the descending. So those notes are available at all times. And the hollowed out circles here, there's an R there standing for root, so that's the first, the first degree of the scale. This one and the 5th, they are only used in the descending. So what you have to do is you jump over the hollow notes. So for example, you play from the 7th degree to the 2nd, so skipping from fret 6 to fret 9, and then carrying on to fret 11, up to fret 13, but then skipping over that hollow note all the way up to the 16th fret, so that's giving you the 6th degree of the scale. And then next note we have 18th fret, so that's the 7th degree. Now we could jump over that hollow note again and play, that's a high 2nd, very high up. So if you're playing acoustic guitar, you won't actually be able to reach these notes, so this is really designed for electric guitar. There's another video that I'm playing Raag Yaman but using the B string, so that will be useful if you're playing the acoustic guitar. I'll just put a link to that video. That's part 1 of the Raag Yaman, the free course that I put out about a year ago. So I'll put a link to that one if you're playing acoustic guitar. But on electric, this is a really good way to do it. So let's say we've got all the way up here, we've even skipped over that root note. And then on the way down, we can bring in the root note. So now we can play all of the notes that are available. We can play that root note, go back to the 7th, back to the 6th, back to the 5th. We can include that note now because we're in the descending. Then back to the 13th, back to the 11th, back to the 9th, and we can play the 7th fret as well. So that's bringing us back to the root note. So the way that you have to treat these notes in the hollow circles, the root note and the fifth, the way that you have to treat those is that if you play that note, then you need to go down before you can go up again. So you have to go back to a solid note, back to one of these black notes, and then you can move up to another black note. So you can move from the 7 up to the 2, but you can't move from the root. You can't move from the root note there up to the 2. Now, just to contextualize this scale, it has all the notes of the major scale apart from the 4th is sharpened. So it's a Lydian scale. If we just played it in scale order from the 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, that's a Lydian scale. But when we treat it in this way, it becomes Raag Yaman. Now let's start looking at the same diagram, but now we're using the Sargam system. We're just going to go through that again with this same idea, but just doing it with Sargam, because that's going to help you to get more into the Indian way of thinking and the way that Indian classical musicians think about their instrument and the notes. So if you're already into Indian classical music, then this will actually be more familiar to you, and the intervals at the beginning might have not been quite so familiar, but most Indian classical musicians I've worked with, they're very familiar with an interval numbered system as well, because it just maps directly onto the Sargam. You have Sargam Pada Ni Sa, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you sharpen the 4th in some cases, and other notes can be flattened. So the numbered system and the Sargam system, they just work completely in synchronization with each other. So let's look at this. We have a Ni. So this note, the 7th degree of the scale, is called Ni. And then we skip over Sa. Sa is the root note. So we skip over Sa up to Re. So that was the 6th to 9. So that's called Ni to Re. And then we play Ga. So Ga is the 11th fret. Okay. Then we can play Ma, and this is called Ma Tiva, which is a sharpened 4th. So Ma Tiva is sharpened. The Shud Ma, Shud means natural. The natural Ma would be at fret 12. So that would be Sa Re Ga Ma, which is just like the major scale. Sa Re Ga Ma, fret 12. But this is Re Re Ga Ma Tiva. So there's the Ma Tiva, and just a little apostrophe there. In a lot of notation, you actually find a dash right above the M for Ma Tiva. This is the only note that you can sharpen, by the way. So normally the dash would be above that, but I haven't found a way to do that on the keyboard yet, so we're just using an apostrophe next to the Ma to show you it's a Ma Tiva. Then we have to skip over that Pa, so we're skipping over the Pa to Da. So we've skipped from a sharp 4 up to a 6th degree of the scale. And then we have the Ni again, which is the 7th degree. So we're playing that on the 18th fret. So we just did 16 to 18. And then we could just go straight to Sa. So yeah, we can play this note. The idea is that you can ascend up to these notes. So you can play Ni to Sa, but then you just have to go back from Sa, go back down. Same thing could happen with Ma. You could play Ni, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, but then you have to go back to Ma before you can then jump up to Da. Okay, and to continue the ascent, we could go from Ni up to Re. So we could jump over that Sa again to continue that suspended ascent, kind of moving beyond the root note. And then we can come back to our Sa. And then to go back down, we can just play through all the notes. So we can play a Sa, back to Ni at 18, Da at 16, and now we can play Pa at 14, Ma at 13, remember that's Ma Tiva, which is sharpened, and then our Ga at 11, Re at 9, and then we can play Sa at 7, because we're in the descending, we can play that hollowed note. And then we'd go back to our knee in order to then ascend up the scale again. So there are some more notes obviously on that string. You can go down to a Da. It's the same progression that you've got here, and then you could go down to a Pa at fret 2 as well, Martiva at fret 1, and then slide up again. But just from here, you've got the full ascent and descent there. So Mi, Re, Ga, Ma, Da, Ni, Sa, Sa, Ni, Da, Pa, La, Ga, Re, Sa. So that's the entire structure of the rag, and it would be the same in different octaves. You can then start to do it on the D string, and you can do that on other strings as well, but that would be a different lesson because you'd have to memorize different combinations of frets. But there are some other videos that I've made which are going through how to play it on the B string and the top E string in the free Raag Yaman course that I've done on YouTube, so you can check that out to get a bit more of an idea. Greetings fellow guitar players, my name's Jack Jennings, and in this video I'm going to be looking at pentatonic scales, but with a view to playing Indian classical music. If you want to start one of these courses, you can buy them individually or you can subscribe monthly to access all of them. For subscribers, there will be new content every month, including live streams where we can answer your personal questions and go into more detail about applying this material. So far we've covered Raag Yaman, Raag Bageshri, Jog, Hamsadwani, Kafi and Raag Nalkants, and there's much more to come. This body of work is a culmination of the 18 years experience I have as a guitar teacher, combined with the knowledge acquired through studying the sitar directly, and then adapting that material using the guitar techniques that suit this style best. To create these courses and gather the most authentic material possible, I work closely with other Indian classical musicians such as Manish Pingle and Gurdain Riot. I'd like to give a special thanks to my guru Roopa Panesar, who has guided me in the creation of these courses. Much of the material has been adapted directly from my training with her. Also Shakir Khan, my guru, who's been inspiring me immensely and continues to shape how I approach the instrument and this incredible world of Indian classical music. So come and join us at the Indian Classical Guitar Academy to start this journey. The first 50 subscribers will get a reduced price every month for the whole duration of their membership. So come and be one of the first guitar players to realise what it means to be an Indian classical musician. I'm pleased to say that 5% of the profit taken from these online courses will go directly to a charity in India to help relieve the COVID pandemic that's happening there. So it's good to know that we can do at least something to help. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you on one of these courses.